course on career counseling, it is extremely important to understand why you should take your career choice seriously. In this video, we will help you understand the importance of making the right career choice for yourself. So, why is your career choice so important? It is important because it determines a lot of things in your life, including number 1, quality of life. Your career choice plays a huge role in deciding where you live, how flexible your life is, and the kinds of things you are able to do in your free time. Number 2, identity. Ask any elder person about their career and they will tell you about it as a part of their identity. They'll say something like, I am a journalist, instead of, I report news. Notice how everybody asks you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And not, what do you want to do when you grow up? This shows that your career choice shapes your identity. Number 3, impact. Every human life touches thousands of other lives in so many different ways. If you select any 60-year-old person who is about to retire, take a time machine, find him as an infant, throw that infant into trash, and then come back to the present day, you'll find that a countless number of things around you have changed. So whatever career you choose, the world will be affected by it. Anything that determines your quality of life, your identity, and the impact that you make should be taken very seriously. And that includes your career choice also. So we hope that this short video could help you understand the importance of making the right career choice. Having done that, we will now move forward to start our career counseling course. We are pretty excited and we hope you are too. So, let's begin. See you.
The Relief Fund for the Victims of the Amphan Cyclone and the COVID-19 by Iche at IIEST Shibpur. You may donate through the options displayed on the screen via Google Pay, Phone Pay or UPI, or you can do a NEFT or IMPS transfer through the account details given in the page in front of you. Any amount of contribution is appreciated. If you are not in a position to donate, please share and spread awareness. Thank you for your support. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to day 74 of Pro Bono's live podcast. सबको स्वागत है. Today we are going to discuss something very interesting, some offbeat careers. But before that, firstly, I want to welcome, of course, Aditya and Mr. Sen. And today we have with us Nishchay Nath. And Nishchay Nath, how do I put this? He's into a lot of things. And firstly, Nishchay, thank you so much for coming to our podcast. Thank you for taking the time. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
So guys, मैं निश्चय को इंट्रोड्यूस कर देता हूँ. An IIT Kharagpur and IIM Ahmedabad graduate, Nishchay was bit by the entrepreneurial bug pretty early in his life. During his undergrad, he joined an app-based event organizer and subsequently co-founded an event management firm. Post a short corporate stint, he founded Menti Club, a mentoring platform for JEE and CAT, and also upskilling platform to connect with corporate trainers. He was also the head of marketing of his family-run recruitment consulting firm and started a new business division under the same umbrella. Having experienced the ups and downs of running multiple ventures, he decided to pursue an MBA. He will soon be joining True North, a private equity firm, in their portfolio operations side to help scale up mid and large size companies. When he is not busy founding startups, Nishchay loves to brew coffee. A coffee making workshop 3 years ago intrigued him into researching on various brewing methods and parameters. He launched Project 2.2, under which he has hosted 11 coffee brewing workshops, curated more than 300 brewing kits, and is currently working on a coffee library of over 70 coffees from 15 of the best Indian roasters. He is a coffee critic who reviews and rates coffee beans from all over the country. He is lovingly called Nish Cafe by his friends who are lucky to have tasted his brewed coffees. So Nishchay, thank you so much for coming. And before everything, if you can introduce yourself in your own words, please.
Yeah, thank you, Samant, Mr. Sen, and Aditya for inviting me to this. To introduce myself, I think you've given a very comprehensive introduction to my journey in the last 5 to 7 years, 10 years or so. I have been dabbling in the space of entrepreneurship. I'm very passionate about ideas. And whenever I came across a challenge, I have been more than willing to throw myself at it, try to solve that particular problem through my own view. Have gotten hurt a couple of times, but have learned a lot from that as well. I think 4-5 years have been immense from a learning point of view when I actually got into the industry. And 2 years back, I decided to do an MBA, did my MBA, learned a lot at IIM Ahmedabad. It has been one of the most beautiful parts of my journey till today. And alongside this, I discovered coffee, have been able to establish myself to a certain degree in the specialty coffee space, which I do hope that we'll be discussing about it as this session progresses. And lately, I have also been, so I will be joining the private equity space. As you mentioned, I'll be working in True North, and currently also I am associated with a venture capital firm. I'm helping them with their investment thesis. So yeah, that's pretty much about me. I think we can start. Thank you so much.
Right, firstly, from IIT Kharagpur, engineering, to IIM Ahmedabad, management, and then entrepreneur, and then a coffee enthusiast.
Yeah.
What happened there? Can you talk to us, like how did you obviously engineering is a mainstream thing, management is a mainstream, entrepreneur is becoming the new mainstream norm in the society, but coffee kahan se aa gaya? Obviously we've read you attended a coffee workshop, lekin how did that happen? If you can talk to us.
So engineering, I think most of us on this call and most of us in the country, especially men, are forced down the engineering line. And it is kind of an unconscious choice, which I happened to make. My choice of college was also driven it happens as per the rank mostly. But then I think Kharagpur was a platform where I got to study alongside a batch which was brilliant. I had so many geniuses in my batch, and that was a platform which allowed me to open my eyes and start seeing at solutions seeing at problems and solutions from a different point of view. That is where engineers have a lot of time at hand as well. So I thought, why not put it to meaningful use? And that is where I started working on different problems. The first year, you keep volunteering in different programs, you build a rapport with the seniors. Second year, I actually teamed up with a senior of mine, and we started working on an app-based platform. And that eventually kind of took off in the direction of launching an event management company as a whole. My stint with entrepreneurship went, I really enjoyed being my own boss. And that one day when you actually get to bear the fruits of those labor, it is a hell of a journey. It's not easy. However glamorous the world of entrepreneurship looks like, it is not once you actually get into the depth of being an entrepreneur. There are a lot of personal sacrifices that you have to make. Somewhere down the line, I chose to get into the corporate side as well as a part of the placements process. And working there, I realized that maybe I would be better off not renting my time, but starting something of my own and lead a product, grow a product. And nothing was better than playing on my strengths, which is why I chose to enter into the space of skilling and education, because I had a good background before that. It kind of aligned with my existing family business, and I was managing the business alongside running my own startup, and had been able to mentor over 3,000 students over a 2-year span, and had more than 250-300 mentors from different IITs and IIMs. So another parallel thread started running when I was my office was in Bombay, but then I happened to come back to Nagpur for vacation. And one of the habits which I had inculcated was I never used to spend my weekends doing nothing at home or watching TV series. So I used to go and attend dramas, plays, attend workshops. I know about knitting, I know about cooking, I can make pastries. One of the workshops happened to be a coffee workshop as well. So this guy happened to be from Nagpur. He was one of I never knew that coffee has championships and everything. And it kind of intrigued me, like, how is a sector so formalized, invisible in front of us? Like, I did not even understand. It was very difficult for me to fathom, and that was a challenge which life again threw at me. So I decided to explore it, and I just kept on going deeper and deeper into it. A lot of people confuse my addiction for coffee with a passion for coffee. So, but yes, one thing which I have been with this particular space is that I've been very consistent in learning about coffee. There's a lot to explore. So this was a parallel thread which was running alongside my career in the last 3-4 years. And when I came to IIMA, this diversity in thought was something which was celebrated in college again. So coming back to college was actually a boon for me. And it allowed me to accentuate this particular aspect of mine, where I could highlight my love for coffee, and definitely my depth of coffee also started becoming more public by nature. So yeah, that's pretty much my journey.
Great, fantastic. And you always talk about, turning your passion into your career, and that's a beautiful thing. And with that being said, and to talk more about offbeat careers in the society, in the marketplace, I want to hand it over to Aditya, who I'm sure has lots of questions about offbeat careers.
Thank you so much, Samant, and thank you so much, Nishchay, or Nishcafe as people lovingly call him, for being here.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks.
You have had a very, in a short time, you have had a very illustrious career, considering that, as Samant said, you shifted from one of the best colleges in India in engineering to one of the best colleges in India in management. And obviously, you are now at a stage where you are also, you'll also be working in private equity soon. And obviously, you are very passionate about coffee. Now, I wanted to ask you that since you were so, you're working so deeply in this space of, coffee brewing, why did you not think about making it a full-time profession? Or, why were you thinking about making management a full-time profession? Is there any particular reason behind it?
Right. So there is a line of thought which I had, and this is a line of thought which I have discussed with a lot of people around me and a lot of my mentors as well. Now, one of the things which this is an advice to entrepreneurs as well, is that you should keep discussing all your ideas with different types of people, especially people who are very pessimistic, because they'll give you a very realistic view of whether your product will work or not. My line of thought was, one, I did feel like I am very heavily driven by passion. One of the problems which entrepreneurs face is that there's an entrepreneur's bias. Am I the right person to people always think that they're the right people to execute an idea, or they themselves consider themselves to be the only people who are trying to make an impact in the space. So it's important to recognize that entrepreneurs themselves can be the biggest hurdles to their growth journey as a whole. Now, I am trying to take it slow. I'm trying to take it easy because coffee as a space is, I'm trying to understand the consumer, and I'm trying to capture the voice of the consumer over here. Coffee, as we were discussing just before the call started with Mr. Sen, that he is a tea drinker. This entire industry, the Indian beverage industry, is dominated by tea because of certain cultural habits which have been perpetuated in the last 300-400 years. So bringing in a new drink like coffee will require a huge habit change. As of now, coffee is a drink which people use from a socializing point of view. You would like to take a date out for coffee, not tea. And with that thing in mind, I think that specialty as a segment, becoming more specialized into the coffee segment, it's not the right time right now. So what I can do in the interim period is to develop myself as an from a thought leader point of view in the coffee space. So all my actions which I'm taking, these are strategically decided, and I have discussed it with all my mentors to see as to how should I go about this particular space, and I need to prepare myself for the time when coffee is going to take off. I can probably look to venture into it, or maybe support some ventures who would want to do that. So this was my line of thinking behind not taking up coffee full time, but developing it on the side as of now, because the timing is not right.
Great. So it's really good to know that it is a future possibility.
Yes.
While at the same time, I also want to ask you that, so when we see people preparing for CAT and when we see people preparing for JEE Main, these are two of, so I'm pretty sure that when you gave it, probably it was something else. Probably it was, what to say? It was probably
yeah, it was IIT JEE.
Yeah, it was IIT JEE, and then there was IIEEE, right?
Yes.
So, yeah. So, two of the toughest exams in India, and you must have, especially for CAT, when you were preparing, I'm pretty sure, you must have already, as you said, developed this passion for coffee. Plus, obviously, you would have had your other affairs. So, how did you manage time at that time?
So I'll talk about JEE first. In respect to JEE, I think that there is a lot of effort which is required. There's a lot of effort which goes into understanding concepts and getting your fundamentals clarified. But personally, I have a belief that all these exams, especially the competitive exams in India, there is a pattern in which you can solve these papers and be able to crack it. So there is, in the equation of success, effort is something which you can't compromise on. You have to put in the efforts, and the efforts have to be smarter in a way that you direct it in certain areas which are problematic, and you take it in a more structured way as to how you prepare in those exams. I would say that luck is definitely a factor which plays at the end of it, but it does not work without the requisite efforts being put into it. This is with respect to JEE, which I just spoke about. But when it comes to CAT, CAT is a very interesting exam. So CAT as an exam is nothing but a mental exercise, which you keep. I used to consider it like a mental gym post work. I used to love solving CAT questions because they are 8th, 9th grade level math and logical reasoning kind of questions. All you need to do is you need to just master speed. So it kind of becomes like a mental gym kind of an exercise with time. So I used to love math. I used to keep solving this, and alongside that, CAT. I was able to crack CAT. I was actually intending to go abroad. I was preparing for my GMAT, but CAT happened, INA happened, and yeah, I think there was a lot of effort involved, but there was a bit of luck as well, which kind of favored in my favor.
Great. So I think that's some advice for people who, on how to crack CAT or how to crack JEE. Now it is JEE main. Earlier it was like IIT JEE.
Yeah.
Irrespective, I think very tough exam, both of them.
So I'll just button a little. There's something very funny which I kind of felt was that there's something known as the willpower paradox, where what happens is there's a parallel axiom in the Gita as well कि फल किए जाओ मतलब efforts डालते रहो but then फल की इच्छा मत करो कर्म करते जाओ. So willpower paradox actually talks about that. The things which you don't focus on are the ones which end up happening. So here also what happened was I was focused more on the means rather than the end in itself, and in a way that allowed me to, that lack of focus from getting into IMA actually helped me get into IMA. So I was able to justify my work while working, and then I was able to justify myself in the interviews as well.
Great. So I think you're a big advocate of, loving the journey rather than, focusing on the end result too much.
Oh yeah,
And-
yes.
And so we talked about, so you while you were giving your answer, you gave some tips for people on how to kind of prepare for competitive exams, how to manage their time. I also want to hear from you what's your advice for people who don't clear these exams, because there's a huge, we can almost say that these exams are overrated, if you allow me to say that, because there are about 14 lakh people who attempt this IIT JEE. Very few people get into the IITs or the NITs also. And most of them will end up in some other engineering colleges, or probably if they choose another career option, they'll end up in those colleges.
Right.
What's your advice for them? So people who don't clear CAT in the first attempt, or in the second, third attempt also, or who don't clear the JEE exam.
So the thing is, with respect to JEE, I think JEE it's not out of choice. JEE is an exam which you don't give out of choice. JEE is an exam which you. Failing that has different kind of impact, which is mostly not in control of you. But I see a lot of people who get stuck in the ego trap when it comes to CAT, and they keep on giving CAT exam expecting that they'll get into an MBA college someday, and a lot of them have seen that they end up ruining their careers as well. So I think keep some hard deadlines first. If you want to give, say, 1 or 2 attempts, keep a hard deadline that I'm not going to give more than 2 attempts. This was one if you are hell-bent upon doing an MBA. Second, do a LinkedIn search of, so have a picture in mind as to, I want to achieve this particular goal. Even if you are preparing for an MBA, you have a why MBA answer and everything in place. Have a picture in mind, say you want to be an XYZ person in an XYZ company at an XYZ level. Go do a LinkedIn search. You will end up finding that 70-80% of the people will not have that degree which you are targeting to get into that particular role per se. I've seen that it's a challenge of being consistent and not changing, because consistency is much more difficult than changing yourself. So there are a lot of people who are at it in the industry for years and they are able to make it big. You don't necessarily need degrees unless and until you are following something mainstream. Say if you are looking at a career in the consulting domain, the base of people is so high that you need degrees to differentiate yourself. But if you look at any other field which is not generalistic by nature, there you can make a career irrespective of degrees. So my advice is, don't focus on degrees, focus on the quality of work that you do, and focus on a 5-year, 10-year view rather than a 2-year view.
Yeah, so I think when we are shifting to a skill-based economy rather than a paper or certificate-based one, I think what you say stands very true. So guys, great insight coming from to the 2-3 answers which I'm getting from Nishchay. I think I'll ask the last question before shifting to Mr. Sen and then probably the audience comments.
Sure.
So, Nishchay, very interesting fact that you have continued your coffee brewing throughout your initial days to now after having pursued an MBA. And I think I haven't done an MBA, but from having seen MBA students in different colleges, it's a very hectic course, which I've realized. Like for a normal
Yeah.
person, it will be very hectic, and you have continued through that. So you could have dropped it also. What is to this thing? Is it the taste of the coffee that you get to taste at the end? Is it the process? Is it the fact that you might become famous doing this? Is it that there's something different? What is it that makes you continue and makes you want to pursue this field more?
So I have two answers here. I will give you the simple answer first. The simple answer is caffeine keeps you awake and it allows you to have more productive time in your day. So invariably, it's a virtuous cycle where I make coffee, I work hard, I make coffee, and I stay awake. And 2 years, I've barely slept 3, 4 hours, 5 hours a day on average. But the other answer which I generally give, which I choose to give to people is so. I enjoy the process of brewing coffee, because it allows me to engage. Because if you see, coffee is a multi-sensory kind of an experience. I don't focus on the drink, but I focus on the process. I love to grind the coffee. I love to get the aroma. I like to play on some nice music. Then the pouring process and the way it drops. So these are all Japanese derived styles of manual brewing, which I specialize in. And those 5 to 7 minutes allows me to disconnect from reality and enjoy a process. And then, yes, it allows me to zero down and then get back to work. So in a way, I enjoy the process. But yes, there is the caffeine element, which I can't ignore.
So basically, Nishchay's expert advice on time management is कि क्या कॉफी पियो, टाइम बढ़ा दो अपना पूरा दिन में.
Correct.
अगर आपको 8 घंटे नींद आ रही है तो आप 5 घंटे सो, 3 घंटे आपको कॉफी जगा के रख देगा.
And I also remember what Nishchay said at the very beginning, that people usually misunderstand my addiction for enthusiasm.
Yeah.
But that's really...
There's a word of caution as well. On a serious note, coffee does have a negative effect on the body as well. So you need to up your intake of water, and you need to keep working out on a daily basis, so that you can keep those body parameters healthy. Because caffeine consumption does have some deleterious effects. So yeah.
Thanks for that, Nishtay, because we are... Please ignore कर देना. ऐसे comment मत लेना कि advice है. But I think one question, even though I said it's my last question, but while you're answering, many questions are coming to my mind, and this for sure, guys, will be my last question. So Nishtay,
Mr. Sen is shaking his head.
So Nishtay, you said that and coffee brewing is a skill, as you said, right? It's a big industry, but then it is invisible. And even when I learned about you for the first time, I was also taken aback. अच्छा कोई ये भी इतना seriously कर रहा है. So, and this is coming from me, who is a career counselor, right? So I'm pretty sure that people are missing this industry by and large. And this is something I'm pretty sure, which is pretty exclusive. So how did you learn it? ये skill सीखा कैसे? मतलब खुद कर करके, or did you watch some online videos, or did you just attend workshops?
It is possible to watch online videos and all, but I'll bring your focus onto certain key economic metrics. So oil is the most traded commodity in the world. Second most traded commodity is coffee. So coffee as an industry already has a lot of money, which we tend to ignore. In the sense, in India, we can't see. India's per capita consumption is about 15 to 18 cups on an annual basis. But take any of the Nordic countries, the consumption is upwards of 1100 cups a year. So the amount of coffee consumption which happens is huge. The market is huge. If you look at across the value chain, if you look, last couple of years, there have been huge strides of growth which are happening in the commodity coffee and the specialty coffee space. Both are two different. Commodity coffee caters more on a on a B2B basis and is cheaper. Specialty coffee is more artisanal by nature. Something you can just draw a parallel with, say, a beer or a wine as well. So I would say, from a career point of view, there are a lot of upcoming careers in the coffee space, ranging from I would say the as upwards as you go in the value chain. If you go towards, say, the processing, the growing of coffee and all, those are mostly controlled by the older players, by the more established players who are like in the fourth generation or fifth generation of their business. But if you come down the value chain, you have people who are there in the roasting and the cafe business. These are the two places where people can look to build careers in the roasting process. There is something known as, SCA is a specialty coffee association. There are a lot of courses which are hosted by them, and you can do those courses and join roasteries across the country in the level of roaster. Salaries, I would say, they are pretty decently competitive compared to an engineering degree, I would say. Uh, and when it comes to the cafe side of the business, there are opportunities for people to work as baristas. Some of the specialty cafe baristas are actually paid very highly. So if you look at a barista in Bombay, they would be much more competitive compared to an IIT grad. In the sense, their salaries would be at par with what a person graduating from an IIT Kharagpur would be earning in a city like Bombay. So given that, I think there is a huge scope, but a lot of people end up into this industry. Most people end up with this industry because of force. There are very few who enter because of passion. So I think there is a scope. If you love coffee, you can definitely explore a career in coffee.
Wow, great to learn this. It's amazing, you know. And the good part, the part that I'm loving about this conversation is that when it comes to coffee, you are an artist. When it comes to like the, you know, statistics and all, you are a scientist, full-on scientist there. That, you know,
Yeah.
how many cups of coffee have been consumed over the world, over in India? That's
Yeah.
amazing. That these facts also, you know.
I have to calculate my risks as well, right? If I'm trying to allocate my time to a space, there is definitely a trade-off which I am having. So I have to know my numbers here.
Guys, I think, you know, any those who are watching in the audience, this is the best textbook way to make a career choice, basically, you know, to do
Yeah.
proper research, to, you know, dabble in exploration.
Yeah.
So he has done, I think, it all. He has explored it as an art. He has done it. He has conducted workshops. He has also seen, you know, what are the statistics there in India, abroad. So that's, I think, the perfect way to make a career choice. If we ever make a short video out of this, which we might do soon, I think this will be one of the best examples that we have to the right way to make the career choice.
Yeah.
And with this, I have a lot more questions, but I think, yeah, the audience will kill me if I ask any more. So I'll transfer it to Mr. Sen.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aditya. Namaskar. Welcome to the show, Nischay. And welcome to the audience. Very interesting. So if I may describe you as the coffee man who is also a little bit of an engineer and a management grad.
Yes.
So you're basically the coffee man. And like as a footnote, you said that I'm an engineer and I'm also an MBA grad. What would you say about that?
Yeah. So one of the biggest compliments which I once received in my college was that they introduced me to Harsha Bhogle as the Harsha Bhogle of coffee, and that is something where
you do have that look before Harsha started transplanting hair.
I'm trying to look the part here.
Okay.
So I think my degrees do have given me the knowledge base on which I operate on. I am looking to use those learnings into formalizing the coffee space as a whole. It is very nascent today. One of the efforts which I'm currently even putting in is building a consumer-focused coffee library, for example, because people in the coffee space don't know how to make a decision about coffee as a drink. So there are certain learnings which I've taken from the structured programs which I've chosen to invest my time and money in the last couple of years, and hopefully I'm able to formalize a little bit, create an impact in the coffee space somehow.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So yes, you are the coffee man.
Yeah.
Now, but before we get to the coffee bit of things, you are what I would say a super smart achiever.
Mhm.
What do I mean? A super smart achiever has been achieving at the top level and giving test after test after test and some more tests, and after that, a few more tests for good measure, and getting right on top of all of them. And you talked about it a little bit earlier when you were talking with Aditya. You made a transition, or you made a foray into the entrepreneurship world. Now, while you're a super smart achiever, it was all about me, 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 and how I can be within the top 100, top 50. To get into IIT Kharagpur, you have to be in the top 100, I think, or whatever it is. If you're getting into electronics, you have to be in the top 20 or 30 in the country. And so you're driven by that me, 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 winning, 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 winning all the time. And when you make the transition into entrepreneurship, you're making a transition from me to you. Because as an entrepreneur, it's all about you. It's no longer about me. And what you mentioned was, while speaking with Aditya, is the entrepreneurs always think they have this best idea in the world, and that sort of kills off the entrepreneurship spirit. I would like to explore that further. How the transition from me, from being a super smart achiever, giving exams throughout your life and maxing all of them, to become an entrepreneur when it is all about you. And remember, at a young age, we are the smartest kid in town. As we grow older, we are no longer the smartest kid in town. There's a new kid in town who's smarter than us. So how does that transition take place? And how does it feel to make that transition?
I think your question kind of captures what has been my journey in the last, I would say, 10 years. Ever since I entered Kharagpur and I been through the entire ups and downs, the roller coaster journey. You're right. After Kharagpur, I was heavily confident about myself, and I felt that I would be able to achieve everything. It was all about me. And suddenly, when I thought about dabbling with entrepreneurship, it became you. But I failed to recognize that, because of which, in my initial ventures, I failed. Now, my failures have been some of the biggest learnings. What people end up seeing is that I have a degree from Kharagpur, I have a degree from IMA. Kharagpur was, I'll keep that aside because that was a different choice. But IMA as a choice was a result of a lot of my failures. What I mean by that is, I failed in so many different ventures. I learned so much across different ventures. I had to fire people. I had to disappoint a lot of my customers. I had to listen from them. I had to get in. I was in business when demonetization and GST came into force. The kind of pressure that the system and the surrounding had shifted my focus away from me to the you that you're talking about. That actually, this entire high pressure environment allowed me to mature more as a person, and the choice of IMA was born out of the kind of experiences which I had gained prior to that, dabbling with entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is very painful. When they talk about that 99.8% people fail, I am in that 99.8% people. I did have a moment of success as well, and that has been one of the reasons why, like, my venture has, so the recruitment consulting firm and the business unit has been flourishing pretty well. But the kind of effort which went in and the amount of failures which I saw allowed me to grow as a person, allowed me to take a step back and understand the worth of different stakeholders in the ecosystem and how they work, allowed me to step back and ask questions from myself, allowed me to doubt myself and be able to highlight strengths in other people. That is where I saw that I like to dabble with ideas, but I know there are people smarter than me. I have certain skill sets, but I know there are people who are much more capable in executing an idea. I am making a choice basis my analysis of my current situation that private equity and venture capital is a space where I can support other entrepreneurs, where I can give them a platform for them to recognize, to see, to enable, to give them an enabling environment, and also give them a sounding platform for them to bounce off ideas of me, because I have seen my share of failures till date. So I think I'm still trying to identify what kind of role I play in this entire ecosystem. And I think you're right. I'm trying to shift the focus now away from me to more towards you.
I think, Nishchay, you put it in such a beautiful way. And I think there's a lot of takeaways for those budding entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs who are part of the audience today, that yes, to succeed in entrepreneurship, you need to move from the me to the you. And as Nishchay said, that's not an easy shift. That's a difficult shift, and it has its own ups and downs and peaks and valleys. And I think the trick is, how do you get there? And how do you recognize? Nishchay is an IIT grad, mind you. Which stream are you from in IIT?
Manufacturing, from the mechanical engineering department.
So it's from mechanical in IIT. And IIT, as we all know, is the #1 in India. And then he was from IIMA, which is again a #1 in India. And he says there are people who are smarter than him out there. So, guys, that's a given. The given is there are smarter people out there.
Yes.
And we should be able to recognize it. So thank you, Nishchay, for getting that out. And I think that's going to be very valuable for everybody around. Now, if you have a tip for the people who are listening in on, how to make that transition to you, when does that, the tipping point come? Because what we can do for the people who are out there trying to be an entrepreneur is at least help them be aware or gain some consciousness that, you're getting into the you side of things, but, there is a tipping point when it happens. So do you have any tips on that?
So, I can think of two things right now off the cuff. One is you have to keep on listening to your customer and keep seeking bad feedback, criticism as much as possible, and use that into developing your product, into developing your service, into streamlining your operations, and look across how you can improve that. Because especially if entrepreneurs, when they start off with new ideas need to have early adopters, and then only you move to the masses. So those early adopters actually play the role of the moon versus 1,000 stars in the market. So you need to build those moons, and to understand those moons, you need to have your ears to the ground and keep listening to your customers as much as possible, and keep working on that. Don't take feedback to heart. Or actually take it to heart and put that into the efforts that you're doing into building a product. The second tip which I would like to give is get a mentor. Listen to industry experts. Listen to talk to people who have been in the industry for 18-20 years. Yes, their experience may be archaic. They may not be able to understand what your product is, but if those industry experts are not able to understand your product, I'm pretty sure that the customer won't be able to. So you need to run your ideas by those industry experts to be able to get one, the confidence that the idea works, and two, you will be able to incorporate a lot of the elements. They'll be able to give you the low-hanging fruits very easily, that this is how you should work, and you'll be able to solve the problems. All it takes is a LinkedIn message. Hey, I need a mentorship. Please help. I'm working on this startup, XYZ, that's it. Drop that message, drop 100 messages, 2 people will reply. Even if one person becomes a mentor, you're sorted.
Excellent. And I hope the audience who are listening in on this, they're taking something away, which they can apply in their entrepreneurship journey. That is, and I'm sure all of them have the dream to make it. Back to coffee.
Yeah. That I love.
I had to set the ground for coffee.
Yeah.
Now, my personal experience has been the most critical problems are solved over a cup of coffee in a coffee shop. What have you to say to that? And also, the most successful businesses are launched, as the cliche goes, on the paper napkin that you get in a coffee shop over a cup of espresso or cappuccino or Americano or whatever you have.
Right.
What do you think?
So they do say that if you want ideas for your business, you go to a coffee shop, and if you want money for your business, you go to a beer bar. So with that in mind, I think coffee has a huge social element to it, and it makes you much more hyperactive, and you're able to have that conversation. Somehow coffee has been much more romanticized because of the West, and it is kind of percolating into our culture. Possibly we should glorify tea more than coffee, given our history with tea. But now that coffee is here, it's here to stay. So I think we'll have to just accept that coffee is going to be a part of our lives, and it's going to be a kind of has a lifestyle element to it as well.
Yeah, and I do remember many of my colleagues having double espressos. Now, I'll leave it to Nishchay to explain what is a Nespresso and what is a double Nespresso. Double Nespresso is a killer shot. Nespresso is so go ahead.
So basic fundamentals. You have coffee grounds, you have water. So if you use 10 grams of 17 grams of coffee and you pull a 34 gram shot, so 1:2 ratio, you have an espresso. You tweak this particular ratio of water to coffee and you get different types of drinks. You get from a ristretto to a lungo to you add water, you get an Americano. So basically it's just one thing that you're playing with is the ratio of coffee to water. And a double espresso is nothing but 2 shots of espresso.
And I know people, after taking 2 shots of espresso, that's a double espresso, downing a liter of water and still not feeling good.
Yeah, I know. So it does lead to a lot of palpitations if you overconsume caffeine. So that is why my recommendation, please work out and please drink a lot of water.
So all coffee drinkers I know of, they always carry a bottle of water with them.
Yeah. So, especially the ones who work in office have a lot of problem because the number of bathroom breaks really irritates your manager.
Okay, last question, and then I have to give it to Saman for the audience. Last question. The Indian Coffee House.
Mm-hmm.
The Indian Coffee House, which is, I think it's got some 400-500 branches all over India. You have the Indian Coffee House everywhere. In Bengal, in Calcutta, you have the Indian Coffee House on College Street, which has seen and given rise to a lot of artists. Satyajit Ray used to frequent it. Aparna Sen is a regular over there. All the artists and the people from literary background used to be there. So at the Indian Coffee House is a very unique sort of an organization. It started off as a coffee house. The Calcutta one was designed on the Albert Hall Coffee House, if I'm not wrong. And as we progressed, the Indian Coffee House became a worker-run cooperative coffee house. You want to throw some light on it? The Indian Coffee House? It's pretty old.
Yeah. It's one of the oldest running, you can say, networks in the country as of now, and has been doing. Lately, it has not been growing so well. It has been stagnant in its own place. It's lost in a decade of its own. But why? So the thing is, I have only visited the Indian Coffee House in my hometown, which is Nagpur, and it has a very different look and feel to it probably because not much money has been pumped into it. But now I really appreciate that not much money has been pumped into it, because it has that aesthetic of the 90s, which I sometimes crave for. You just sit down in a corner and you just read a book, you drink that coffee, order a maskaban on the side or some biscuits. So there is a different feeling associated with that. But if you look at how the Indian coffee houses came into picture, so back when the British were here in the country, the associational life, all the club life was something which was growing, and initially only the whites were allowed. Then eventually, when the Indians were allowed, only people from the corporates were allowed, and people used to spend their evenings in those clubs playing games or drinking or something. So the blue collar workers needed some place where they could have their meetings, and that is where the Indian coffee house was born. So that has kind of spread all across the country, and I think I'm glad that it's not changing.
Yeah, so there you have it, folks. The Indian coffee house is the labor's coffee house.
Yes.
So it is down to earth. It's something that everybody can relate to. With that, Samant, I think I'm going to give you just 6-7 minutes for you to run through the audience questions.
Yeah, there are a few audience questions. Firstly, let's see. Obviously, most of them have to do with coffee. I think that was kind of expected. Let's see. Firstly, there's a question by Badra Chaudhary, who asks, which is the best and strong instant coffee that you recommend?
So the strength of instant coffee depends upon how much coffee you put in. So you use any instant coffee, you just put more of it and you'll have a stronger coffee.
There you go. Instead of the 1 10-rupee packet, just add maybe 20 or 30 rupees worth.
Yeah, maybe. I like to take like 6 sachets of the 1 rupee brew sachets and add them when I don't have an option, and I get a nice strong cup of instant coffee.
So that is the instant double espresso and all that thing that you have.
That's like a quintuple espresso.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, there's another question by Vinayak, who asks, what is your daily coffee recipe? Do you take it black? Do you add sugar, etc.? What's your take for every day?
I am focused more on the specialty coffee side. So these coffees are very delicate by nature. So I prefer not to add any kind of sugar or milk to it. So I generally have it black. Sometimes I like to pour it over ice and drink it if it's a hot summer day. So yeah, I drink it black. And my brewing method, so there are different methods of brewing. I prefer the manual methods of brewing. So there is something known as the pour over, and there is a device known as an AeroPress. So I use either of the two for a daily consumption.
Great.
Pour over and an AeroPress.
My preference is just whatever is available to me, and preferably the one which is offered by others and is free. But that's me.
No, but Samant, you have a point. You can't make coffee without water.
Yes, you start. Yeah,
that is my choice of beverage.
You're there.
Right, there's a question by Anita ji, who was welcome Nishchay. What's your view about the pricing of coffee in some of the coffee house brands, like the franchises like CCD, Barista, Starbucks, etc.?
So I would say, other than Starbucks, all the other coffee houses make a loss on coffee as a drink when they sell coffee as a drink. If you add the cost of coffee and the cost of equipment and its depreciation, and you add the cost of labor and the entire operations cost, the cup of coffee are actually sold at a loss. Other than Starbucks, Starbucks does make a profit on its coffee. They make money in the food, so you'll see that the food is little overpriced, and that is where they'll try to cover up on the margins. I would say, but the sad part in the entire pricing game is that farmers, who are the ones who actually grow these coffees, are barely paid 1 to 2% of the price at which the coffee is, a cup of coffee is priced. So that is something which I would like to bring focus to. But yeah, coffee shops do charge below what they make.
Right, and I also I did watch a documentary like coffee beans are like one country is Ghana, where coffee beans are picked up, is that the people who grow these beans, they do not even know what these beans are used for. I mean, let's say the large companies that manufacture chocolates, Valentine's Day पे तो बहुत बिकता ही है. So these farmers, they haven't even tasted. Some of them, they haven't even tasted this chocolate, so they don't know where this all these coffee is going for. So I think that's where we need to reach out to people and let them know exactly how their produce is being used, so that they get a fair share of what is being sold as the end product.
It's not just that, there is an element of there's a virtuous cycle also which plays over here, because when the farmers know how their coffees are performing, they will be able to direct their efforts, and if they put in most efforts in a structured way, the coffees move into the specialty space. For example, if they tweak how they process coffees, it drastically changes the flavor profile of the coffee and drastically changes the price at which a coffee is traded. It may go up from 150 rupees a kilo, which is the commodity rate as of now, to more than around 800 rupees, 900 rupees in retail. So I think it's imperative for the industry to connect the farmers with the supply and complete the feedback loop for it to be able to take off in the way, say, beer or wine as an industry have.
And there's a comment from Anita ji, I think, going back to the conversation about entrepreneurs, is she says a sense of we is also important in the journey of entrepreneurship.
Yes, entrepreneurs at the end of the day are innovating, and innovation is nothing but trying to do something in a different way. So there is, in a way, the entrepreneur is investing their time into solving a particular problem which a customer is facing. And most of the startups are born, they are incepted from a point of need. Like, you would have felt the need to have a platform like Pro Bono, and you built that as a platform. So there is an element of we. Obviously, there's an element of we, but the focus has to be you.
Right. And finally, I want to ask a question of my own, of course. Is one thing that you talked about at the beginning of the conversation with Mr. Sen, is focusing on being consistent, because being consistent is more difficult than changing. And the way I see being consistent is having that discipline, and discipline is a sense of responsibility to doing your duty to fulfill your vision. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yes. So discipline is a precursor to be able to achieve consistency in life. But I do welcome a certain amount of disorder as well, because disorder breeds creativity and it will allow you to think as well. So it does not go with, I don't mean to say that people who are very disordered won't have a chance of being consistent. But what I mean by that is, chart out a time. Say that you're going to work in sprints this week. 5 hours you're going to dedicate to a particular passion project of yours. 3 hours you're going to spend to this thing. And use a Pomodoro if you want to, but work in sprints, complete your work. Have a structure in place, but be fluid within it. So it's like balancing. It's a balancing act in a way. So you need to figure out this thing between discipline and disorder, but have to be consistent. So you've seen that equation. There's an equation 0.99 raised to 365 and 1.01 raised to power 365. So one leads to almost 0.01, the other leads to 37.3. So it's just about, say, a 1% increment on a daily basis will do wonders for you.
I'll pretend like I understand the numbers of what you just said. But with that being said, thank you so much, Nishchay. And firstly, thank you to all the audience members for your questions, comments and insights. Mr. Sen and Aditya, thank you for your questions as well. And of course, most importantly, Nishchay, thank you so much. And before we leave, do you have any final words to aspiring coffee enthusiasts or anyone who wants to get into this industry?
You can drop me a message. I'll give you some literature to go and possibly give you a starting point as well, because starting point is something people are confused about. Drop me a message. I'll help you out.
And Nishchay, how do people connect with you?
You can connect with me via Instagram, and you can even connect with me via Facebook. Just drop me a message. I'll reply as fast as possible.
Great. And guys, Nishchay's social media handles are tagged in our social media posts prior to this particular podcast, so you can find through there. If you have any issues finding that, although there shouldn't be, do message pro bono and we'll get back to you with the details. So thank you so much, Nishchay. Thank you for coming. So guys, take care, stay safe, wash your hands, and like and follow the Pro Bono's Facebook page and turn on post notifications to get notified when we do go live. And subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch our live streams on entrepreneurship. And we'll see you tomorrow at the same time with a different guest. Take care now. Bye bye. See you.